Welcome to the Entrepreneur Show. This episode, we are featuring Professor Laxmi Narasimhan from New York University, USA. The professor has been in the hospitality industry for over 26 years. He was in Hyderabad for the launch of a skill development startup called My Hotel School. I caught up with the Professor Narasimhan during the event. He shared his insights into the latest trends in the hospitality industry that is relevant to startups and millennials. The professor began by explaining how is new age learning different from the old method of learning.
A couple of things that I would like to talk about are some far-reaching trends in the learning industry. For example, it's not a new trend, but something called competencies in the business. I'll give you an example. Learning began with understanding and picking up knowledge. Knowledge led to a couple of skills that you would exhibit. But the power of competency is it brings the third element. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle, and the last piece is in there. So what does competency bring in, which changes the earlier way of learning? Competency is based on knowledge, skill, and the ability to carry out a job competently. A lot of times people have education, knowledge. They also have the skill. But if you put them in the work spot, they have a serious problem executing the knowledge and the skill. And competency brings that ability. And that's why competency is getting into e-learning now. So you are not satisfied with a course that will give you some knowledge, produce some skills. It will actually test you whether you can do the job where you are on the work spot.
Many universities, including some of the top ones, are offering online courses. The online learning platform edx.org being a case in point. Professor Narasimhan highlighted why are online courses becoming popular, especially among the millennials.
The second major, I would say, very radical change that is happening is something called micro-based learning. What is micro-based learning? Attention spans are dropping like crazy. Everybody has busy lives. Nobody wants to go through a 6-week course or even sometimes 6-month course. Enter micro-based learning. What does micro-based learning mean? Small chunks of learning of 3 to 5 minutes, normally accompanied by a video. And I actually, in my course, I do this micro-based learning. Now, micro-based learning attacks one of the simple problems that a modern day young learner does. And what is that? It produces a short course which is easily digestible, and also micro-based learning's biggest USP is retention. There are often times when you get into a classroom, learn something, you step out of the classroom and you have forgotten. But small chunks of learning, a lot of times supported by videos, is very powerful.
According to Professor, teaching through gamification is shaking up the hotel industry.
The third major trend which is really shaking up the learning industry is gamification. And what is gamification? Bringing in game-like elements into your teaching. I'll give you an example. Last week, I created a card game. It took me 12 months to create that card game. But the card game teaches hotel revenue yield. In a hospitality context, two of the most important concepts you need to understand by actually doing it is what is revenue and what is yield. Yield compares revenue with the potential that revenue could bring. And so yield is a way you could say of capacity utilization. So gamification is another huge trend there.
The professor said the hotel industry is using technology to stimulate real-life situation, which means students are required to respond to an evolving situation.
Technology is bringing in simulations. What is a simulation? For instance, at New York University, I have a class where online simulation. When I teach them restaurant profitability, they are given one entire restaurant to deal with. They will manage the restaurant. If you have 4 teams, each team is a competitor in the restaurant market. So whatever decisions they're taking are impacting others, all through simulation. So these are some powerful techniques. At the end of the day, the student must go away with learning that can teach them how to do the work, not just learn it, right? And those are some of the things that I'm...
According to the professor, the hotel industry is using a new method of teaching called adaptive learning. It is helping students in finding the right fit for their training.
I'll also be talking about a few other related concepts, something like adaptive learning. Adaptive learning is also becoming, technology is being used. What is adaptive learning? You get into a learning stage. At the first stage, based on your response, the learning branches off into 3 different directions. If you have grasped it, it goes in one direction. If you have lost it, it goes in another direction, maybe reinforcing. And in the third one, if you have really kind of cleared it with a maximum, I would say, efficiency, then you get on to the second stage.
The professor strongly recommends that Indian educational institutions should move beyond classroom learning.
Okay, I will say in the hospitality we have lagged behind a bit. I'm not talking only about India, in general in the industry, but abroad, particularly North America, US where I am, universities have understood that they have to tap into the hospitality undertakings, not just impart academic learning. It's got to be learning which can be used in the hotel operation, restaurant operation, spa operation, whatever. So to answer your question, in India, I think hospitality needs to embrace these things much more. Students at this point, I feel, are still have not gotten out of the classroom learning kind of scenario. I think it's important that maybe one of the steps that we will take is to bring this new learning which the rest of the world seems to be embracing. And AI you talked about, yes, AI is going to be doing a lot of work. Adaptive learning has a little bit of machine learning in it, so that also works. But overall, hospitality and restaurant businesses have to embrace this much more.
According to Professor Narasimhan, the students are a demanding lot. They expect more out of learning.
Software companies are creating these experiences, but what is the big difference? The student is the one calling the shots. If I have mastered that first part, I move on to more advanced thing. If I'm stuck in some other part, maybe it will come back to reinforcement of that same thing. Millennials are already ready for it, but are we providing it? Right? They may be demanding it. Are we providing? So the market research is going to play a big part. The customer or the learner is today very demanding. They don't want a cookie cutter, typical like a standardized mold kind of stuff. They want to see how their learning will actually take them to becoming efficient and competent managers, leaders, whatever.
Learning through gamification provides an excellent opportunity for startups. Entrepreneurs should explore industries such as hospitality to find ideas for the next big thing. Thank you for watching. Until the next bulletin. Do follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel My Startup TV for latest programs and updates. Click on the bell icon for notifications. I am Simreen, your host.